Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channels and on X. How is everybody doing on this lovely Tuesday, August 12th, as the Mets return home after a terrible performance in Milwaukee? As we got a lot to talk about. We got to preview this series, and the Mets are in dire straits right now. There's really nothing that's gone right for this team, and they need to start going right, because if they don't, well, we'll be talking a lot about this team choking and not making the playoff. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I appreciate everyone being here in this early evening ahead of this series, because this is an absolute huge series for this New York Mets team, who are trying to find any sort of life while clinging on to that last wild card spot. And you asked how everyone's doing. I know you didn't directly ask me how I'm doing, but I'm going to tell you, Rob, I'm doing absolutely fantastic, because guess what? Frankie Montas is no longer part of this Mets rotation as of today. And that is awesome news. Awesome news. And we got to talk about it, because Paul Blackburn is also not an option to start for Montas on Saturday, which means in all likelihood, we will be seeing one of Brandon Sproat or Nolan McLean up starting for the New York Mets on Saturday. And I think that this is what all the indications point to and lead to. So I'm doing fantastic. I'd be doing more fantastic if the Mets pull out a victory tonight. But just the decision-making and saying enough is enough from this front office. While David Stearns is out in Japan scouting Murakami, we talked about that on the channel as well earlier today, with that report dropping earlier today. I think, is it bad to say that I got a good feeling about tonight? Is it bad to say that the mojo is up, even though it has been down as of recent?
No, honestly, I tweeted earlier that I have a good feeling about tonight. I don't think they were in their City Connect jerseys today. That's what I kind of tweeted out there. Like, hey, where those City Connects? I got a good feeling about today. It's more about something has to change. Like, you can't be this bad, right? I don't think this team is this bad. Like, it's very hard to continue to be this bad unless you're a bad team. And I don't think this team is a bad team. Do I think they're a great team? No. Do I think they're a team that could contend for a World Series? Yeah, because all you got to do is make the playoffs. And as bad as they've been, they still find themselves, as we gained a half a game up in the wild card in front of the Reds. So we're 2 games fully in front of the Reds right now for that third wild card. Yes, we lost half a game to the Phillies, but we didn't play yesterday. So, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better. Look, we got a team in the Braves that we're facing that we know they've always given us problems, but they're a team down in the dumps. They're a team not making the playoffs. They had a lot of expectations, just like the Phillies, just like the Mets. This was supposed to be a 3-team race. It turned out to be a 2-team race. And this is a team the Mets should beat. They're better than this team, right? I know if you look at the roster, some people might think not, but they're not good. Spencer Strider isn't having a year like he had, in years past. I I don't trust Clay Holmes, but I mean, the last outing he had a solid, decent start. So we'll see what we're gonna get here. But we know what it's all about. It's about what is this offense going to do overall, right? What is this offense going to do? Is the top four going to wake up? Like they need to dominate games. They need to wake up. There has not been a time this year, and we've talked about it till the cows come home, that this team, these four core guys at the top, have not put it all together as one unit. And it would be nice if they take over games. And it would be nice. We got 44 games to go. When it's either now or never. Like you can't be 10 games out of a playoff or out of a division, and God forbid out of a playoff spot in a wild card spot, and then we're gonna start talking about the problems and when they're gonna figure it out. Can't figure it out when the pressure's not on. And the pressure is definitely on now, Chris. So yeah, I'm feeling good about today. I don't know why. I have no idea why. Maybe I just woke up on the good side of the bed. I don't know, because this team doesn't give me no good vibes at all, but I feel like it's going to be a good day, and I just don't know why.
Well, we'll take that feeling from you, Rob, anytime that we can take it. You know what? I'll take that all day long. And you said it. I mean, this Braves team is not good. I know that they perpetually play the Mets very tough every single time these two teams meet up. I understand that, but they don't have Acuna Jr., who is, I guess, dealing with some sort of lower body injury. He might appear this series. He might not. I don't know. Strider is coming into today. I know that he's a really good pitcher, but he has a 4.97 ERA career against the New York Mets in just about 10 starts or so, I believe. This is, if the Mets were losing ball games to inferior teams earlier in the season, they need to make up for it by beating an inferior team record-wise right here with the Atlanta Braves, who are also just not at full strength. Look at that lineup for the Braves. I mean, it's not, especially 7, 8, 9. Who do you really fear there? And I'm going to just start knocking on wood here because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, because it's not like the Mets have been playing great baseball at all. But if the Mets can't beat the Braves and get over the hump and start playing well against this team, and they're 51-67 and their lineup is looking like that, then they don't really deserve to be a playoff team at the end of the day. They need to come out of the gates swinging, literally and figuratively, and put the pedal to the metal against this team at home in front of the home crowd. Because you know what? If the Braves get out to an early lead, that crowd is going to be restless, and you're going to hear it from them. So I hope that the Mets have early offense in store, and I hope that Clay Holmes can figure it out and he doesn't get stuck in the fourth inning as per usual with this Mets rotation. And I hope that we are on here talking about a post-game stream with W's in the chat instead of L's like we have been for the majority of the last 11 games.
Yeah, I agree. But I got one question for you. Who's our first baseman next year, Murakami or Ryan Clifford?
Listen, man, I don't know. I don't know. Between Pete Clifford and Murakami, with the Mets going out there to Japan and scouting him early. Listen, everyone wants to say that he's going to be a Dodger, and that would make all the sense in the world because Freeman's on the last 2 years of his deal over there, and they're going to need another first baseman after him. But stranger things have happened where I think Murakami can also play third base, if I'm not mistaken. He's a true corner infielder. So if the Mets don't really want to commit to what they got at third base right now, maybe they just make the extra push for Murakami, who is just a premier power hitter. Now, I would love to see Pete Alonso back in the Mets uniform, but he is on the wrong side of 30, and he's going to need a big contract. And we know that David Stearns, with the way things played out with Pete Alonso this past offseason, if that's any indication on how the negotiations are going to go the second time around with Pete Alonso being a free agent, he's walking out the door because he took a bet on himself, as all Mets fans and this Mets organization was calling for with the contract that he took, right? And he has proven for the vast majority of this season, and given the overall numbers, the clutch numbers that were lacking last season, that he deserves to get paid as a premier first baseman, because that's exactly what he is. Are the Mets going to give him that money? I kind of have my reservations early on about that. And, Ryan Clifford getting called up to AAA could be a sign. It could be nothing. Clifford could be the DH next year if they, hold him to that account. I don't know. but the first base position for the Mets moving forward after this season is a huge question mark with the philosophy and what the thought process could be from David Stearns.
Yeah, I mean the way David Stearns like to do make a roster. We'll have 4 first basemen and 4 third basemen uh, for our infield altogether. So yeah, I mean, would I be surprised if Pete Alonso's not here? Actually, no. I just had to bring that up because I thought it would be funny that you brought up Murakami, and then Ryan Clifford just got promoted, so it just all kind of put it together. Like it says, David Stearns don't care about this year. He's worrying about next year already. He's in Japan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I did a video, Chris. You probably seen it pop up about when the prospects got promoted. Excuse me, and everybody was like, "Oh, you spelled prospects wrong." No. I spelled it on purpose for prop specs because this is David Stern's propaganda, right? This is his communist country, the New York Mets. This is what he does. He did it. I think he did this on purpose, right? The Mets are down in the dumps. Met fans are killing everybody, and everybody's to blame. Right? People are blaming David Stearns for the trade deadline, like myself. People are blaming the players. People are blaming Mendoza. Everybody. Fire Chavez, fire Barnes, everybody. Might as well fire Hefner as well. But I truly think this was to shut up fans. This is the only way to quiet fans after a deadline. Promote guys that people want to see. And when they get one step closer, it shuts Met fans up. It gets them a little bit excited. And yes, it's not going to make a difference if the Mets lose 6-0 today. Everybody will be talking about the game again. But I think it's so perfect. Right after we got swept, and we have an off day yesterday, it was a perfect opportunity for him to, you don't see this many promotions at the same time during a season. You just don't. It's usually, this is what happens in the off season where you make these drastic promotions, not during a season. So I felt like it was more of his propaganda. And again, I don't trust David Stearns. And again, I was proven right, at least this year, at the trade deadline, where he started aggressive and then he cowered out. So I don't know. I feel like, is Nolan McLean going to come up here? Yeah, it's looking like it. But it's a lot of TBDs for the Seattle series, if everybody hasn't noticed. Would he be crazy? And, this is just blowing my mind, but it's not going to happen. But that he just says, you know what, screw it. We'll just throw all 3 of these guys in the Seattle series in Tong, McLean, and Sproat. Like, it's all TBD. Like, I know that's crazy to think. I just thought about it because I saw all TBD. And I'm like, no Montas, no Blackburn. And I'm thinking, there's a lot of room for, throw these guys in there because, what they love to do is give Sanger an extra 9 days. So you can give him a couple more days off. You can give Holmes, a few more days off as well. You can give multiple guys a few more days off. And I wonder if that would be crazy. If that's like a plan. I know you just promoted Tong, but nothing stops them from bringing him up. I mean, by the time the Seattle series comes, they can come up because they still have that year of control.
My gut feeling in keeping this as realistic as possible, especially given the Mets' history and especially David Stearns and these prospects moving upward under his control of this team as president of baseball operations, is that I think Sproat is going to be probably the first one to get called up if there's one of them. I think that both of them will get called up in McLean and Sproat. I think it's gotten to that point of desperation for David Stearns. And Martino actually just put out a tweet saying that it's more than just a possibility, as Carlos Mendoza was saying about the promotion of one or multiple of these pitching prospects for the upcoming 2 series against the Braves and the Mariners, given the Montas news, in that, David Stearns probably wanted to wait as long as possible for the hand of the rotation to get forced to call these guys up, especially given the lack of movement for a starting pitcher, I guess, to build a rotation in the offseason, also at the deadline. But I think both of these guys do get called up, McLean and Sproat. I don't think Tony gets called up. Listen, they just called him up to AAA. The Mets way, Rob. We all know the Mets way. Let's see bulk innings in AAA for some reason for these guys, and let's call them up after that, like we've seen out of Brandon Sproat, like we've seen out of Nolan McLean so far. I've told you all, I know that I think August 15th is the cutoff period for retaining that year of control for how that works on the contract. So I think that's what the Mets are doing. And Saturday would be, I believe, I don't know what Saturday is. What's Saturday's date? It's the 16th, right?
Yep.
So it's after that day. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think that's what you're going to see. And the Mets really don't have any choice at this point. If they want to make it seem like they do have choices, that's fine, but they don't, because you're not selling a fan base on Paul Blackburn coming up and taking Montas' spot. Same thing with Tyler McGill, who's starting his rehab assignment today. It's not feasible. And the PR of that, right, would not be a good look. It would not be a good look. So I don't think they call up Tong though. I don't think they call up Tong. I don't think we see Tong until next year, unfortunately. Although if I had my way with it, right, if I could get into the mind of David Stearns and make him make the right decision, I'd have all three up, because this rotation is in shambles. And we'll see how Clay Holmes does tonight. I think that this would be a great night to set a precedent for this rotation if Clay Holmes can go out there and deliver 6 competitive innings. Will we see it? We haven't for the most part, but it would be a really good start from a guy that needs this kind of start in Clay Holmes. That's been kind of like teetering back and forth of us thinking he's a respectable starter moving forward versus not. But all indications seem to point toward the Mets keeping him in the rotation, and we'll see how that, how that goes come playoff baseball if the Mets make it there.
Yeah, I mean, look, David Stearns, made this roster. He made this rotation. So desperate times call for desperate measures. Like, it's okay to admit that you were wrong. And it's okay. It took him a long time to figure that out, or at least to make changes from his mistakes. It's okay. Like, I'm not going to go after you if you admit that you were wrong. This rotation is not good. Like, you put this together. It's okay that you were wrong, because you have opportunities to fix that. Obviously, you can't do it anymore at the trade deadline, but he had that opportunity, and he has internal options. Lucky for him. Because let's imagine if we had no top prospect pitcher that was at least somewhat ready to come up, like, that would have been a complete disaster, especially when he doesn't spend money on pitching. So, I mean, it's a desperate time. We got 44 games to go. These guys might come here and pitch 4 to 5 games, right? I don't know how they're going to use them. That's yet to be determined. We all believe they're going to be on restrictions somehow, some way. And I don't know if that's going to necessarily help this team overall, or at least, short-term and long-term for the rest of the 2025 season into the playoffs. But, I mean, why not? Like I said, trade them or use them. That's the way I feel. I'm sick and tired of having these guys in the minors and continue to have guys that are up currently that are not doing their jobs. Like, I'd replace them tomorrow. Honestly, I bring Jeff Williams up here, and I bring Ryan Clifford up here. You know what? Send Mauricio down, and if you want to send Beatty down, send him down too. Like, switch it up. I know all of them don't play all the same positions. I know Jet Williams does, but bring them up. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Again, you're holding that year of control anyway. You want to wait until Sunday? Bring them up. I don't see, Mauricio hasn't shown enough. Beatty hasn't, he's been a hit or miss. I know he hit a home run the other day, but it's a hit or miss with him. And Vientos does have no more options, so you're probably going to have to keep him up here. You're not DFAing them. So, I mean, it is odd to bring these guys up a month before the minor league season is over and promote all of them like that. It's kind of weird. But I don't know. I wonder, and I said it in the video that I made yesterday or the other day, like, are they going to make drastic roster moves? Not just with the pitching. Are they going to be other guys? Not just the guys that we just brought up, promoted in Williams and Clifford, but certain guys in AAA that might be having good seasons that can fill in for, instead of Mauricio or Beatty, and bring somebody else in there. That could be a possibility too at the AAA level, Chris.
I was going to say, let's break that down, because first of all, getting these guys onto the 40-man roster should not be a problem. There's a lot of candidates to get taken off that 40-man roster that the Mets have. I think, if I'm not mistaken, last time I checked, Nick Madrigal is still on the 40-man roster as an IL 60, right? Max Kranick is also there. I mean, there's a plethora of guys that can get moved in a parallel move to get these prospects onto the 40-man roster for a potential call-up. And with what David Stearns said weeks ago, right, in that the pitching prospects are have a lot better of a chance to get called up to the MLB roster than the hitting prospects. I wonder if that mentality has also changed given given no adjustments or lack of the continued lack of production from this lineup, right? Because I would have to envision that philosophy and ideology does change if you're David Stearns. Okay, our offense is supposed to be top 5. They're nowhere close to it. And the team is faltering because of it. So let's bring a hitter up here, even though I said that no hitters are going to be coming up. But what would be the move, though, right? Brett Baty has one option remaining. I don't think they send him down. Mauricio has shown flashes. Your bench is pretty much going to be your bench. Marte's not going anywhere. I would be very hard pressed to. I don't think Tyrone Taylor can go anywhere, to be honest. He doesn't have any options or anything like that remaining unless he's just a DFA, which is not going to happen at all. So what would be the move? Like, in your honest estimation, what would be the move? Because I can't really see the Mets moving any of these guys on the roster from the offensive perspective to call up a guy that can give you some home run power to the DH spot in Ryan Clifford. And if the Mets are going to try to sell this fan base that I don't know what his timetable is, I haven't read any news on his injury and Jesse Winker, but if the plan is for him to come back and be inserted onto this team, I'm not buying it. Jesse Winker is done in my mind for this season. He's not making any difference for this team. So why not use a lefty power bat, right? Even if he's on your bench, even if you have to use him in situational spots in Ryan Clifford and give him that experience, why not do it? I just don't know which name would get moved off the roster in order to make that happen.
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's a topic of conversation. And I know this is a pregame show. We're going to be talking about the game soon, but I think it's a big topic of conversation since we had an off day yesterday. I think it is because I think there's a big reason why these guys got sent up to AAA. Right? They still got about 20 games left, 25 games left for the minor league season before their playoffs, before their season is over. Like if Clifford and Jet Williams perform well at AAA, why wouldn't you make those moves? Like, you can DH Clifford. He can be outfield and infield. He can, spare Pete Alonso at first base every night. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, give him a day off, DH him, play Clifford in left field because he's a corner outfielder. DH Nimmo at times as well. You could do that. And we know about Jet Williams, who can play center, second, third, short, all over the place. And he's mostly played second and center field. So, I mean, I don't think it's the craziest idea that could be a plan, or at least one of the plans. I think there's plan A, B, and C here. Like, if Mauricio and Baty get going, we're not going to have that conversation. But if they're not going and they're still, hovering around, mediocre play, I think you can make that decision. I don't see why you wouldn't. Again, you're going to have that year of control because it's going to be within the 45 days, so it's perfect. So I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at the roster right now. You brought up Luke Ritter in the offseason about a possible guy being a bench guy. He's not having a good season, right? Joey Meneses, nothing special, right? The only guys that we see are the guys that we know. Acuna, Clifford, Williams. That's basically it. Benj. Yeah, I mean, that's it. There's nothing there except for pitching. So I would just assume that there's probably two plans, A or B. And I do think I think you have to make changes. I think there has to be consequences here. You can't keep Mauricio and Baty on this roster when they don't perform. Because what does that tell the other guys like Clifford, like Benj, like Williams, all these guys that you're playing well and the guys that are at the major league level right now are not doing well, and they have your positions basically on this roster at the moment. I think you have to make that change. Like, show the dugout and show the clubhouse that you're trying something here. I think you have to make a drastic move like that if it's not going to continue to go well.
Well, I mean, the Mets are handcuffed in terms of that, though, because who's going to play third base? I mean, that's really the one position for this team that if you're not getting production there from the current guys, I mean, who's going to come up and give you that, right? I mean, because Jet Williams, are you going to really entrust him to play third base?
No.
If you send a guy like, Mauricio down and demote Brett Baty to a bench bat, then you'd have to have Mark Vientos play bulk innings at third base and Jet Williams be up the middle at second base. I just think that with what Stearns has shown us thus far, I think defensively and keeping that defensive mindset, even though this team has been abysmal defensively, as it is, I can't see any of these prospects coming up and making a huge difference unless his name is Carson Bench and you can get rid of one of the noodle arms out there in the outfield for the Mets, because this Mets offense, or this Mets outfield, I should say, it drives me nuts, man. It drives me nuts. Look at a team like the Brewers and who they have defensively out there in the outfield. That's a competent defensive outfield, right? Juan Soto is not a terrible defender. He's not the best defender. We all know that. Mullins doesn't have a great arm. Soto doesn't really have a great arm. And Brandon Nimmo, forget about it. All bets are off with Brandon Nimmo and his arm. So, a guy like Carson Bench can come up here and contribute. If it's not with the bat, he's a really good defender too and can play all three positions if need be. And that's a guy that I can see making a true difference. But like at third base, my mind just keeps on going to third base. Like, this position needs to fix itself, because honestly, at this point, with the way they're going, Mauricio and Beatty are not the answer, but they kind of have to be for the rest of this season, I would think.
Well, do they though? Because again, this is the problem. Right? They have, even those guys have not played great defensively. Now, have they been better than Vientos? Yes. You could say Beatty has probably been the best of the bunch for the most part. It's been close with him and Mauricio, but again, I think David Stearns has to throw defense as the number one priority out the window. Offense has been the big problem, right? Everybody has been talking about the offense. I think this is all about offensive possibilities. And I don't think it's all about power either, because it's not like we're getting it from these guys anyway, right? They're not showing any power. I think it's just get somebody in here that can possibly hit. And I'm not saying Clifford, Williams, Bench are going to hit, but do it. Like, make that decision. Like, if he makes that decision, now I can say, you know what? He's actually trying something. Do something different. It's not working. And here's the other thing. If you send down Mauricio and Beatty, you take Mendoza's decision-making and too many decisions out of his hand at third base, and you just play Vientos. I'm not the biggest fan of Vientos. I said that for a while, right? But what potential do we have at third base right now that we've seen before? And that has been Vientos last year into the playoffs. I think you need to play somebody every day at third base. And everybody can say Mauricio can do it or Beatty can do it. Beatty has enough opportunities, in my opinion. I like Beatty, but again, he can be the bench guy, whatever. I don't care. Or however you got to do it and to make this roster openings for these guys. But I would just put it with Vientos. Like, it's not like we're getting a ton of production in center field right now with Mullins. So you're not really going to put somebody in center field. So that's the thing. Like, is it just third base, or is it also second base? Because you can move McNeil around. You can DH him. You can play him all around the field if you want. But I think there needs to be a drastic roster shakeup. And I think this promotions to AAA with all four of these guys, I don't think this is just, hey, season's coming to an end for the minors, or in the next month or so. Let's promote you and give you guys a little bit of a boost because you played so well. I don't think it's just about that. I think this is more about the major league roster than anything else. And to make them play for a week or so, or maybe even get 20, 30 at-bats over a week and a half, I think that decision can be made. And there's no reason why Mauricio, Beatty should be on this team permanently if they're not playing well, right? That's why you have the options. He plays with options all the time. And now he's just gonna, fold under the pressure and just not do it now. I don't understand that logic at all. Like, we're gonna have the same issues going deeper into the season, into the dog days of summer, into September.
The biggest issue right now, and this is why I always go back to that trade deadline that we just had. It's like,
Yep.
I even made a video on my channel about it, saying, I know they wanted more in the grand scheme of things, but Martin Vientos has been one of the biggest problems for the New York Mets offense, and he's creating a logjam on this team, right? And honestly, I mean, even though Brett Beatty hasn't been doing well, he's got better numbers this season than Mark Vientos.
Yeah.
As sad as that is, because the numbers aren't even great for Brett Beatty. Yeah. But home run wise, OPS wise, I mean, it's all better for Brett Beatty. And the defense, I think, with Brett Beatty, I mean, I know he made that terrible error against the Guardians, but I think that I take his glove over the glove of Mark Vientos at third base. I know you're talking about the upside though, right? To get the offense going and just hope and pray that Mark Vientos is able to turn it around to what he did last season, especially in the playoffs. And I do understand that, but it's a hard sell for me to completely rely on a guy like Mark Vientos that has not figured anything out from the start of this season up until this point and just put him in there every day at third base. And that's why I'm like, the Mets, I don't know if they were truly shopping him at the deadline, but I don't really know what his role on this team moving forward is going to be, especially in the offseason when the Mets are going to have to make a lot of parallel moves, with the way that this season has played out, however it ends. I don't know, man. It's Vientos I look at is the one guy that if he got going, this offense had a very good chance to completely turn itself around. Not saying that it would have, but he could have been the catalyst. He has not done so, and defensively, he's just a liability. No matter if you put him at first base or third base, he's just a liability. So I don't know, man. It's beyond my pay grade to figure out at this point.
Well, then why is Vientos on the roster? This is why when people talked about Mark Vientos at the trade deadline, what you just said should have made a ton of sense to more people. This is why you trade him. This is not about what potential you might have in Vientos. It is about what you can do right now. He is a log.
You could have had Robert on this team for Vientos and Acuna or Vientos and Reimer. I don't care. Any of those combinations, I would have sent in an instant to the White Sox for Robert. I said it back then. I'll say it again. I don't really care.
How's Acuna helping his team right now? He's playing in AAA, right? Vientos is not even starting. Exactly. He's not playing every day. He's not even DHing every day because he can't hit. He's not playing third base because his defense is not as good. So there you go. This is why I said that you couldn't have these four guys in this organization at the same time, mostly on the roster. Because it doesn't make sense. The roster construction is terribly put together. And that's what I said for a while. That's why this is not only all about Mark Vientos and what he can do, right? He's not doing it right now. The Mets don't believe in him. Haven't they shown you that? Haven't they shown you that? This is the problem. This is why I get upset when people talk about not trading certain guys. It's not just about how good you felt inside when he was hitting home runs last year and he was being clutch in the playoffs. You got to get that shit out of your head because that's how you fall into a situation that you're currently in. And David Stearns fell for that. And plus he don't have options. It's another reason why I'm surprised David Stearns didn't make that deal, right? Acuna shouldn't stop you because I don't think the Vientos part of the deal was stopping David Stearns. I think it was Luisano Acuna. And that annoys me almost as much as not trading Mark Vientos because Acuna isn't better than any of these guys. I'm sorry to say he's not, right? What people made him out to be is not what I think he's going to be. I think if he gets his average up, and I'm not talking about 10 points, I'm talking about getting it up to a 270, 280, his speed is almost going to mean nothing if he's going to be an everyday starter, right? It's cute when he's a pinch runner, and that speed plays. But again, you can't have a top 10 prospect that you're only using for a base runner. Now, you could bring him up in September. You have him. You can use him as help. But when he's not doing what he's supposed to do offensively, and his job, he's not a power hitter. I think he can be a doubles machine with his speed, but you can't bat 220 because your speed don't play. And your OPS is bad. Your on base is bad. That is not a starter, in my opinion. So if he becomes a better hitter, his speed's going to play more as a starter. So this is why I just don't understand. They clearly, right after the deadline, Acuna was in the minors to make room. So they gave Mauricio the option of the Mauricio the roster spot, and Beatty continues to be here, and Vientos is still here because you didn't trade him, and he has no options. This is why you have to make him. You had to make a move for Luis Robert, regardless of the package.
Agreed 100%. And this is the same reason why I know Starling Marte is producing now with his bat, and I love it, right? But this is the same concept. It's not about the player, right? And what they can give you. It's about the roster construction and freeing up that roster spot to give somebody else that's more flexible the chance. Because if things go wrong with Marte, if things go wrong with Vientos, you're handcuffed. If Marte is not producing right now, we're screwed because he's taking up a roster spot. Thank goodness that he is, and hopefully he stays healthy enough to continue to have that roster spot before the contract ends. But those are the types of guys that just, it's hard to roster them because there's nothing you can really do. And if they're not hitting, then it's essentially useless for them to be on the team. And that's why I'm curious if Vientos sticks around in the offseason, not because of the lack of production, but I'm just curious about this. The guys coming up too also hinder that conversation. But, I think David Stearns realizes, and this Mets front office realized now, they should have realized it at the deadline, but they didn't, in that these guys just handcuff you. And that's just the bottom line at this point.
Well, let's be honest. He was scared to trade those players. It's just that's what it is. He was afraid. And again, he was timid. He ended up being timid in that situation. And you know what? You shouldn't deny that. It's a fact. That's exactly is the problem. I guarantee you if he ran it back, Vientos and Acuna would be in that trade for Luis Robert, in my opinion. Mullins happened very last minute. And there's a reason for that. Because I think he was trying to get Acuna out of the deal, not mostly Vientos. And they were just continuing to say, no, this is who we want. And he wasn't going to do it for whatever reason. And I agree with you. By the way, I think Vientos is going to be off this team. He's going to get traded. And I truly think that it's going to be a lot easier for David Stearns to go get Sandy Alcantara or Edward Cabrera or a Mitch Keller or, somebody of that caliber in the offseason. It's a little bit easier to do so because, again, you don't have the time frame and the time limit of a trade deadline. You have an offseason to do it. And I think trade deadlines, and especially with guys that haven't been traded, the negotiations can start up rather quickly because the players have been talked about already. And I think offseason, this is when you're going to probably see a move for the pitching department because they're not spending money on Framber Valdez. So you got to get somebody better. So, yeah, I think Vientos is the odd man out, and I'm not going to cry a river for him. I'm not, right? I'm glad what he did last year. I was excited. I appreciate what he did last year, but you're not doing it this year, right? All I hear about fans saying is about what guys do this year, right? No, you shouldn't worry about the past because I've had a lot of people. We both had a lot of people in a lot of our trade deadline shows and talking about it and all the offseason and the trade deadline stuff that, but this guy is not good that we're trying to get, like a Luis Robert, like a Sandy Alcantara. The difference is there is so much higher upside than what you currently have. That's the problem. Like Vientos has not shown a difference, hasn't adjusted at all. Again, at the trade deadline, we talked about Luis Robert, his adjustments that he made, the better play, the better offense since the All-Star break. That's a big deal. He made an adjustment. Whatever it was an adjustment. Maybe he was getting excited. He might have been out of the south side of Chicago and started to play better because he was excited. Or he just made his adjustments. Maybe he was always talented and he just had to make adjustments. We don't see that from Mark Vientos. And it's already game 120. We can't wait and just continue. And now we're kind of stuck with him. But again, he's not playing every day. So that's what the Mets think of him. And I feel bad for Mendoza, to be quite honest with you, because and with the lineup not doing well, it makes Mendoza make decisions that, or at least be indecisive on decisions on certain players. Like Beatty's playing today. Great. Do you think Beatty's playing tomorrow? Probably not. It's probably going to be Mauricio. That's the problem. You're giving Mendoza too many options, in my opinion, that are not very good. And then he has to figure out who is going to be good for that day. And I think that's a big problem why I think Mendoza has had a worse season than he did last year. I think that he has too many decisions. It was easy last year, right? Jose Iglesias came up, McNeil wasn't hitting, throw him in second base, right? That was simple. But when you have all these guys not hitting, it's very hard to, stick with a lineup and stick with guys at certain positions because they're not playing well and the guys that you want to put in are not playing well. It's very hard to manage that way when people are not doing their jobs. So Mendoza has some blame, but when the guys don't show up, it's very hard to put a lineup together on an everyday basis.
Well, we're taking a look at what we're getting production-wise from Beatty, Mauricio. I'm talking about overall numbers and not just the short spurts and where they decide to come alive. But it's been pretty bad. And that's why I put out a tweet. Whoever follows me on social media over on X, you probably saw it, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm like blaming Mendoza for the lack of production, especially from your main guys in Lindor and Nimmo, who are just putrid right now. What is he supposed to do, right? I mean, he can continue to change this lineup up, and he finally did so by putting Juan Soto back in a 2-hole after a long time this season in a 3-hole. And that's all he can really do to try to get guys going, but it's up to them at the end of the day. And that's Lindor and Nimmo, two guys in your core. We're not even talking about Beatty, Mauricio, Francisco Alvarez, who is batting 200 over the past 15 days as well. And it looked like he was coming alive for a little bit and just is reverting back to, himself earlier this season. So it's not Mendoza's fault that this team can't hit. It's either it could be a combination of a lot of things. It could be one thing for one player and another thing for another player. But I look at it is they're not making adjustments. The philosophy probably from the top down is off, but it's up to these players at the end of the day. They're professionals. They're able to make adjustments, and they haven't. But let's get into this game just a little bit because we should probably talk about this game because there's a game happening today, by the way. And the Mets do have a chance to, I guess, win a baseball game in front of the home crowd and stay in a playoff spot, which would be ideal. What do you think about this lineup? What do you think about this lineup? I mean, McNeil, Marte, Mullins, Alvarez, Beatty, that's not McNeil, Marte, I have no problems with, but they're not really prototypical 5-6 hitters in a championship caliber lineup that I would put in there, right? But again, Mendoza has really no other moves to make outside of those guys being there. This is how thin the Mets lineup really is and how top heavy they really are. I say top heavy as if, these guys are baseball. The guy that's going right now, right, is probably 4, 5, 6, and 7. Those guys are and have been the most consistent hitters over the past week and a half. Good to see Cedric Mullins had a really good series in Milwaukee. Marte also had a really good series. McNeil, I mean, he's having a really good bounce back season, which is great. And Pete Alonso's having a killer month of August so far. But everybody else, I mean, I'm like, we need more. We need more. So what do you make of this lineup right here, Rob, tonight?
He's trying to get the bottom of the order going. Like he needs some production from the bottom of the order, and that's why I think Marte and McNeil are in the spots they're in. And even Mullins has looked better over the last few days. I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to get some production from 5 through 7 because what are you really going to do with 1 through 4? You're not putting Soto 7th. You're not putting Lindor 6th. You know what I'm saying? So you're not moving Alonso anywhere besides 3 or 4. So those guys are kind of locked into their positions. I just think he's just trying to get some production and putting it, like the best guys, you just said it. McNeil, Marte, Mullins have been our best hitters, right? At least for the last few days, and Marte has been the best, but they've been pretty good. So bunch them together at the, middle to bottom part of the lineup, and hopefully those guys continue to do well, and it might lead to actually hitting runners in scoring position, or at least giving the opportunity for the lineup to turn over with those guys on base for the top of the order, and then you would hope they come through because that's all you can do, right? Mendoza's trying everything here. The reason why people are talking about in the comments right now about consistent lineups, what consistent lineup do you want? None of it worked. Lindor leading off didn't work. Lindor batting second didn't work. Juan Soto batting third didn't work. Pete Alonso third or fourth didn't work. It worked for a little bit, but it wasn't consistent enough to keep it the way it is. Mendoza has to change it up until he finds something that works. And that's the problem. And you know what, maybe Mullins should lead off. You know what? Would that be a shock if anybody sees it over the next couple of days if they're not playing well? You got to try something.
Yeah.
It would shock me. It would shock me too, but it's not a bad idea. He's got
No, it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wouldn't shock. Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, when people get upset about the lineup, it's laughable because it's not like this team's on a 10-game winning streak and you change in the lineup because you feel like it. Because, you got bored of seeing the same guys in the lineup. They haven't done that. And they haven't been good. They have been losing a lot of one-run games as of late. I guess that's the only good take I can take out of this tough stretch is that they lost a lot of close games. And, one hit here, one non-bad inning from a pitcher could have turned the outcome of the game. So we're not far from achieving our goal, which is winning games. I think this losing streak has been depressing, Chris, but overall, they haven't been getting blown out often. They've been right in games. It's been, one bad pitch, a couple of bad plays on the field. That has been the difference. And, a couple of bad at-bats is the difference of games. We could have easily took 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. Easily. And that's the best team in baseball, record-wise at least. So this lineup, throw it out there. What are we going to do here? There's no drastic changes you can do. So go out there and just play well. And it's up to the players in the lineup. That's it. Get it done. I don't want to hear Nimmo talk about, I know we're really good. We know we can do it. Well, do it. You're one of the biggest problems. Do it. You're batting third. Do it. Stop striking out. I mean, you look like a little leaguer out there. He strikes out way too much. I'm okay with the lineup. I'm not going to be mad or overly happy because there's nothing to be happy and there ain't nothing overly angry about until the post game. Because if there's a lot of offers, we'll be angry about the lineup. But right now, I'm like, do what you got to do, Mendoza.
The only thing for me that's kind of head scratching and, the sacrifice bunt and the 3 spot really kind of drove that point home is why is Brandon Nimmo batting 3? That's really the only problem that I have with this lineup because he should not be anywhere near that 3 spot. That should be run producing spots, your 3 and 4 hitters. And that's why, I know Juan Soto only has 67 RBIs this season. Pete Alonso is really your premier RBI getter, right? With 93, he's going to be well on his way to 100 plus this season. But, and that's also why I would shy away from all the talk that I see in the chat right now with Juan Soto batting in the leadoff spot. Crazier things have happened. I'm not saying Juan Soto can't be valuable in the leadoff spot just to shake things up. I get that. But, I don't know. It just doesn't seem in a lineup that doesn't have run producers. And I know Juan Soto this season, all in all, has been absolutely putrid with runners in scoring position. But at that point, you have to hope that he snaps out of it because guess what? Are you really going to entrust in anybody else in this lineup to be in the middle of the order and drive runners in? Maybe Francisco Lindor if he somehow figures it out. But with what he's doing, all bets are off there. And nobody else. McNeil's not meant to be an RBI getter. Marte can be, I guess. Nobody else, though. I'm not really confident anybody else to drive those runners in those spots. And I just don't see Juan Soto, leading off. And I could be wrong. Maybe it gets to a point where Mendoza is just super desperate and he does it, but I can't see Juan Soto in the leadoff spot.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. That just shows you what Nimmo really is. Nimmo's a leadoff guy. That's what he is. He's a number 2 or a leadoff guy. That's what he is. He's always been that. And yeah, he's shown some power, but again, he's not hitting 30 home runs here. So, that's the problem. Like they turned Nimmo into a semi power hitter. And now they moved him. They couldn't wait to move him out of the leadoff spot and take him out of the 2 hole and bat him 3rd, 4th, or 5th. Which is not good spots for him. I honestly think if everybody hasn't noticed, since he's been batting in all these spots, he's been striking out a ton. Like, get him out of those positions that he thinks he's a run producer. Because I think that gets him into trouble. He's a better hitter when he's batting 2, 1, 9th. Bat him 9th. Maybe he'll get his head out of his ass. Because he's trying to do too much yet again. He turns into this, I'm a run producer, and you're like, no, you're not. You should be a table setter with a little bit of power. That's what you should be. But you keep on putting him in these spots, run producing spots. What do you think he's going to try to do when he gets up there? He's going to try to hit the 5-run home run. That's what he's trying to do. He's late on fastballs. He's swinging out of his shoes, which Nimmo should not be doing. And it's a continued process. And he's only getting older, and we got him for a long time. So. Everybody's excited about Nimmo, the center fielder that was not. So Yeah, I
I mean,
I don't know, man.
that's going to be an issue within itself. We've talked about it earlier this season about him potentially DHing some games and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure that could be the plan moving forward as well. That's an offseason conversation from the roster construction perspective of things. But I really do think, again, we could talk offense all day long. But, the manager said it himself in the post-game press conference that he did after the Mets got swept in Milwaukee, is that, if this team's going to turn it around, the offense is clearly going to need to get going, but this pitching staff needs to get it together. And we talked in the first half of this stream about the Montas news getting demoted to the bullpen and a prospect or prospects, plural, getting called up to fill that void, which is certainly possible. But it starts tonight with Clay Holmes. He really needs a good outing. I cannot watch 4 1/3, 4 2/3, or even 5 innings of average pitching from Clay Holmes. I can't do it. And I would, with the numbers that he has right now, if you asked me if I'd sign up for that earlier this season, I'd probably say yes with the overall numbers, but not with how he's gotten here, right? Not with how he's gotten here. And there is going to be a little bit of a patience game, and I think we all expected that in his first season as a starter, right? But it's do or die time. And Stearns built this rotation as such. He took the gamble with Clay Holmes, knowing that he was going to need to pitch in big games down the stretch. And so here it goes, Strider versus Clay Holmes. Do you have any confidence that Clay Holmes reaches the 6th inning today? Or even with this, Braves lineup that, let's be honest, I know that certain guys in that lineup have their way against the Mets routinely. From Olsen, I know Baldwin's having a really good rookie season as well. Michael Harris always, I don't care what Michael Harris is doing. It always seems like he is up and ready to play the New York Mets. And so I don't really know what to expect out of Clay Holmes today. I want to be confident in him, but I said it even way back when he was doing pretty decently that I have concerns with Clay Holmes in the second half of this season. I didn't really care what happened in the first half. He showed me something cool, with the overall numbers in the first half. But as as we get down the stretch, yeah, we'll see what we get from Clay Holmes. What do you think he does tonight, Rob?
I could lie to you guys and say I trust what he's gonna do. I just don't. I just don't. Like his numbers are so like we talk about offensive stats, how players pad stats early on in the season, or at least 2 months out of the year, and it makes them look like they had a good season. Clay Holmes is doing the same thing. Has not been good since May. He had a great April, a really good May, and mediocre ever since. And his numbers are gonna look like they're still really good on the surface, but they're not. And it's mostly because of the lack of innings and him not getting into the 6th inning. Like your foot needs to be on that mound in the 6th inning. Now, shit happens. I understand that. But can you get it out in the 6th inning, please? Like we need desperately here, right? We can't keep on trying Mania to get to the 6th inning here and go deeper into games. Like just, it would be nice if Clay Holmes can get to that 6th inning, because tomorrow David Peterson will get to the 6th inning by any means necessary, even if he's not pitching great. When it comes to Clay Holmes, I don't know. He walks too many guys, which is going to add to his pitch count. He'll have that long inning either in the 3rd or 4th inning. Like he will be cruising. He would have a good number of pitches within the innings that he's at the moment. When it comes to like he'll be in the 3rd inning and have a reasonable amount of pitches in those 3 innings, and then he'll have a 30-pitch inning like he always does. And it's either the 4th inning or it's mostly the 3rd or the 4th inning, and occasionally the 5th inning. He can't have those 30-pitch innings. He just can't. Every start, he gets in trouble with that. He'll get in trouble with his walks, and then he'll throw 25 to 30 pitches, and it blows up his pitch count. And they're afraid to get him past 80 pitches. They have not done that. They've been taking him out before 80 pitches. So if he has one long inning of 20-plus pitches, he's gone by the 5th inning. Like, there's no way. If he has anywhere near 75 pitches before the 5th inning, he's gone. They're not keeping him in there. They're petrified of him going through the 3rd time through the order. They don't trust him at all. So, no, I don't trust him. If they don't trust him, I damn sure don't trust him. And that's the other thing. Clay Holmes is going to be one of our guys that are pitching in the postseason, most likely. The way they're setting this up, Clay Holmes is going to be a possibility as a pitcher in the postseason, probably in a 5-game series or a 7-game series. Wild card, maybe. But this is the problem. They're not pushing him anymore. It's not because they're protecting him when it comes to, pitch count or innings restrictions, because that has blown out the window already. They're protecting him because they don't think he can do it. So when you're going to need him to do it, probably in September and October, he's not going to be able to do it. He's going to completely blow up. And that's my problem into why they did what they did with Clay Holmes. Because it was successful for a little bit of time earlier in the season, but it hasn't been good since. And they needed to make a clear decision on it. They didn't. They had options, or they could have made options available to allow Clay Holmes to go back to the bullpen. They did not do that. Again, this is another David Stearns project here that has not worked. So Clay Holmes, just get into the 6th inning. Find a way. Like, can you battle? Like, I don't care if you battle in the 3rd inning. Like, that means nothing to me. Like, oh, great, you just walked 3 guys? Oh, wonderful. Now you got to battle? No, that's not battling. Battling is when you're at the 75, 80 pitch mark in the 5th inning, and you got to give this team length. You battle and get the hell out of that inning and throw 85 pitches if you have to. That's the battling I want to see. If we don't get that, we're back to square one. We're going to be talking about it in the postgame, regardless if the Mets win or not, because it's going to be the same old nonsense again, using 4 of the 5, possibly 6 guys out of our bullpen, Chris.
The problem is that this rotation and this staff has immense problems putting hitters away when they need to. You can look at all these guys' savant page. I know that David Peterson is doing really well this season, but he's also included in this, but he gets a pass because he pitches to contact and he does it pretty well, especially with the ground ball rate. But Kodai Senga, all in all, thus far, strikeout percentage isn't really great. The whiff percentage is okay, but Montas, before his demotion as a starter, could not put anybody away, right? Clay Holmes I think is the biggest culprit of this. He could be up 0-2, 1-2. He can't put a hitter away. The whiff percentage is abysmal. His walk rate's at 9%, which is not as bad as Kodai Senga's, all the way up at 12%, which is absolutely horrendous. I mean, free passes galore from this rotation. It's the free passes and the inability to put hitters away in crucial spots, especially second, third time through. And that's going to just rack up your pitch count. And that's why you see 4 1/3, 4 2/3, 5 innings. And that's something that's not new to this team, by the way, Rob. We've been talking about this ever since last season, the season before that. So, the Mets don't really have, that domination in the rotation from like a guy that can purely put hitters away whenever he wants to. And David Peterson, he's not that type of pitcher, but he pitches well to contact. And that's something that I think if you are not going to have that put away stuff, you need to learn how to pitch the contact better. But I don't know. I mean, the pitching lab has its limitations too, right? So they're going to have a lot more things to work on with Clay Holmes this offseason to get things right. And that's why he signed a 3-year deal. And it seems like the Mets are really confident making that bet on Clay Holmes being successful maybe in year 2, because I would have thought that they would have already made that residual move to move him to the bullpen, but they have continuously stated, whether it's, with words or actions, that they are committed to him in this rotation, and that's what it's going to be. So,
yeah, when you try to disguise yourself as not a pumpkin, you eventually show up as a pumpkin again. Like,
by the way, Joanne is saying something really interesting, and I think that that's also a very, very likely scenario. I think Ryan Stanek is a DFA candidate. I think that there's really, especially with Montas now in this bullpen, at least Montas gives you length in this bullpen, even though if Montas is coming in like a close situation, out of the bullpen. Is anyone really confident? Because I know that I'm not. But Ryan Stanek has had enough opportunities already. I don't think he's going to make or break the Mets moving forward. To clear up a roster spot, I could definitely see Ryan Stanek just being let go. That's what I would say. That's a good point because I completely forgot to mention that.
Is it a possibility? And this, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, and it's not even about Frankie Montas going to the bullpen. It's more about, let's say McLean and Sproat are the two guys that come up. Let's say they bring up both of them. I don't think both of them are going to be in a rotation. If you're going to try to save their innings, you might have to throw one of them to the bullpen. Now, I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they want to do that, but that could be probably the best option for you, considering the fact that if you're not going to put both of them in a rotation, and you're going to limit their innings to the point where it's just pointless putting them both in a rotation, could one of them go to the bullpen to save their innings? Now, I don't know if they want to mess with their routine or anything, but look, you're trying to win games here, right? If routines go out the window, they need to go out the window. So, I don't know if they're going to do that. This rotation hasn't been good enough to warrant that. Again, I throw Clay Holmes in the bullpen and I'll put Sproat and McLean in the rotation, and you're going to get 4 innings from them anyway, what you've been getting anyway from Montas and Clay Holmes is 4 innings or less. At least we have an option of those two guys actually pitching good in those innings. And if you're going to have to throw the same amount of innings, I'd rather have better quality than, guys that don't do it. And, we know Clay Holmes can go into the bullpen. He's done it most of his career. So that could be an option too, Chris. I think this is Clay Holmes' last opportunity, to be honest with you. This it just popped in my head. This might be Clay Holmes' last opportunity to prove that he belongs in this rotation. Because I wouldn't be shocked if Sproat and McLean take these spots, and that's it. And you'll see Clay Holmes and Montas in the bullpen and go from there.
Yeah, listen, and what Joanne is saying here, I also said it was a good move to bring Stanek back. I think everybody was saying that it was a good move to bring Stanek back. I mean, in hindsight, obviously, that wasn't, things don't work out. It didn't work out in the Mets' favor because he's got over a 4.5 ERA, but it's like, his upside, especially with what he did in Houston. I know that was a number of years ago, but the electricity, and he had a really good postseason run with the Mets, and I think that's what pushed him over the edge to bring him back. So nobody could really forecast how bad he's actually really been, especially not this past offseason. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree. I just don't see. There's a scenario where you bring up multiple prospects, and if you want to save their innings, you have them be an opener, so to speak, and Montas piggyback, in the second half of the game, or kind of vice versa, although that's not really possible if Montas is getting demoted to the bullpen. That could be a scenario, but I don't know if the Mets are able to move Clay Holmes into a bullpen gig. I don't know if that's possible. At this point,
putting a young kid in the bullpen.
No, Clay. You said Clay Holmes, didn't you, or did you say
Well, I mean, it's not like it's a demotion and saying, hey, you're never gonna be a starter again. We'll worry about that in the offseason. I think this is a situation where the team needs you in the bullpen. That's it. You're not doing what you're supposed to do as a starter. I think they have to sit him down and tell him, like, this isn't a situation where we don't you being a starter. This is not about year 2 or 3 of his contract. This is about this year. You haven't performed up to what we were expecting of you. We were hoping that if you built up your arm, that you wouldn't have a complete roadblock in the second half. And he has that. Nobody's saying that you have to be great, but you can't do this. And I think that's a conversation that will be had, especially if they bring up Sproat and McLean, because you can't just throw all of them in a rotation. You're going to pitch everybody once every 7 day. Like, it's crazy. So,
then at that point, then you'd have to rely on a guy like Paul Blackburn or McGill coming back and making a contribution in the rotation, which I don't think anybody wants either.
No, but if you're going to give these guys extra days rest anyway, you're going to have to do that with somebody who's not good anyway.
Well, I guess that's also true.
And then obviously when you get into if you get into the playoffs, it's going to get shortened. So I just think it is. Any way you look at it, you're going to have a bad pitcher a part of this rotation that nobody wants just to spill some innings. That's the problem. That is what David Stearns wanted. He wants quantity over quality. This is his method. This is his philosophy. So it's on him to figure out what he needs to do to get these guys through and hopefully pitch good. Like, that's it.
And that's exactly the reason why bringing up Jonathan as well and just having him sidestep AAA for the most part is A-okay with me.
Yeah.
That's exactly the reason why.
Yeah, and that's probably the reason why I didn't think of that process of like, oh, well, if you got to add a Blackburn or a McGill in this thing, why don't you just throw up Jonah Tong with the other two kids and throw them out there, right? You can spill their innings because they get extra days off, and they've pitched 7 innings in the minors. All of these guys have, so it's not like they can't do it. I mean, we'll see against major league hitters, but they can do it. Right? They've done it often enough where I'm like, they could go 6 and 7. That's basically what they do, unless the Mets control the situation and take them out with 5 innings and 75 pitches. They can do it if the Mets let them. Like, that's what we've seen in the minors throughout the minor league system. When they're built up strength-wise, they can do it. So at least we know you can do it. I don't know if Clay Holmes can do it. Like, we still haven't seen it. Like, there's no way. Like, nobody would even put $1 on the highest odds of having Clay Holmes going 7 innings. Like, there's a betting odd somewhere that probably is well over plus 1,000 that you could put $1 down and makes, a little bit of change because it's that high of odds that he's going to go 7 innings. Like, that's a problem. There's no thought in my mind that can make me think that Clay Holmes can go 7 innings, let alone 6. So,
well, I agree.
And that's the issue. So, final thoughts, Chris, about the pitcher matchup, lineup, game, and call it a day until the post game.
I mean, I hope that the career numbers against the Mets for Strider continue tonight. I mean, he has struggled against this team. He's really a 2-pitch pitcher. I don't know if he's added a 3rd pitch to his arsenal as of yet, but he's a 2-pitch pitcher. So you got a 50-50 shot knowing what's coming. So maybe if Brandon Nimmo can guess on a breaking ball and his back can kind of speed up a little bit and not be late on the fastball, then he can hit one out of the park. That's really it, though. I mean, we're going to either see adjustments like Oliver was saying up in the chat, or we're not going to see adjustments from this team, and they'll be a playoff team, or they won't be a playoff team, given those adjustments being made or not. And it's do or die time for the Mets. I mean, we're not waiting around till end of August to see what happens. The time is now. The Reds are 2 games back, and it's going to be a race to the very end. And at this point, with the way things are going, unless things don't turn around today, I don't see any realistic shot to come back from 6 games and catch up to the Phillies. You need to go on a run for that to happen. And that's what Brandon Nimmo was saying. But what indication has this team given us that they will go on a run? It's been no indication. So I hope they turn it around. Today could be a good start to something, but we've been saying that for quite some time now as well. So, I won't believe it until I see it. That's my philosophy moving forward, but always having, I guess, that slight optimism, although it's getting very, very, very hard. The roster management is going to be a continued conversation. The roster construction is going to have a very different perspective and different tone this season, especially from myself, maybe not so much from you, Rob, because if you're talking about building sustained success, this is not really the way to do it, because if you build a team like this, you just, you build a questionable rotation, you're burning your bullpen, and it's just going to hinder a different part of the team. And we've seen that so far here in this season. Although the pitching held things down the first few months, it's kind of fizzled out and there's no adjustments being made. So we're going to have this continued roster construction, the free agent conversations, the trade conversations, all the way up into this offseason. But for right now, the personnel that we have, barring any sort of call-ups that we probably will be seeing within the next couple of days, that's who we and Carlos Mendoza have to work with on a daily basis. So hopefully they turn it around. I have a good feeling about today. I have a good feeling about this series. Hopefully the crowd is energized at the beginning. And again, start this game well, because this crowd will become restless very, very quick. We've heard the boo birds out before, especially for Juan Soto. I believe it was in that Guardians series. Go get it done. Go get it done. That's all I got to say. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the post game.
Yeah. Hope is not a strategy. And I know somebody brought it up in the comments. Hope's not a strategy, right? Hope is a loser mentality. I think David Stearns has that loser mentality. I think too much hope in a part of the roster that should not require that much hope, or should put together too much hope, is why we're in this mess in the first place, right? Not blaming David Stearns for the lineup. I don't know what else he could have done. The guy's got to hit better. You know, he built this rotation. He built this pitching staff. There's a lot of hope in this pitching staff. It's not a good strategy, but we got what we got right here, right? We can't fix this stuff until the kids come up and see if that works. But get it done, right? The Braves are not a good team. I don't care what's across their chest. They're not the same team as last year. They're not playing as well as they were last year or the year before or the year before. The Mets are better now. They're not playing well right now, but they are a better team. Show it. You're home. You'll have the fan base behind you that's probably walking on eggshells because they're probably waiting for the other shoe to drop and ready to boo. But let's not make that happen. Make it not happen. Make them cheer for you, right? Get going. You played well at home throughout the season. You got a 6-game homestand. Wake up. That's it. Wake up. There's no more excuses, right? You will be blamed for every little thing that goes wrong, from the president of the baseball ops to the owner to the coaches to the players. No more excuses. Step up. I don't want to hear we're better than this. Well, show it. It's about time you do it. 44 games left to go. 6 games out of a division. 2 up in the third wild card. Let's get it done tonight, guys. Enjoy the game, guys. We'll see you on the post-game show. Let's go Mets, and we'll see you later tonight, guys.
Go Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire misunderstood. Hear 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city